Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. My name is Trina Wilcox, and my guest today is just living by the motto of Run Radio, inspiring strides in business, life, and beyond. And it's Scott Schmoele with Century 21 Real Estate. Welcome.
How are we doing today?
We're doing all right. Yourself?
Doing okay, doing okay. Just hanging out at the office, trying to get some work done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me about that work and what led you to that work. I know you've got a lot of interesting strides that you made along the way to get to where you are. So tell me about that.
Well, my real estate career started 5, 6 years ago. 5 years ago when I moved back to Missouri. I grew up in Missouri, moved away. I joined the Coast Guard out of high school and did 20 years in the Coast Guard. We can talk about that. But I did, when I lived in Florida, I was married and all that good stuff, retired from the military, and I had a couple businesses I was running, and then I also got into kind of flipping houses a little bit. Me and a couple friends got my real estate license in Florida, but I wasn't like an active realtor like I am now. I was just using my license to help do my own business, so I didn't have to pay someone else to do it. Then I moved back here in 2019 and got into real estate. My family is in the mortgage business. My sister, my brother-in-law, my nephew, both nephews, are all in the mortgage business. I didn't really want to do mortgages because I don't like being in the office a lot of times and sitting in front of a computer. I like to get out and do stuff. So showing properties was better. I got into residential real estate at first. And I did that for about a year, little less than a year. I did residential. And I like residential real estate. I still do residential. I still help people find homes. And I don't list a lot of homes, only if someone really wants me to do it. Most of the time, I stick on the commercial side. I residential is more, I guess most people tell you the simple answer is residential is emotional. It's very emotional. People are very emotional about, the home they're buying. They're trying to plan it out for their family, in their future. And, they're making decisions based on that. I've come more with a business background. So I like the business side of it where it's more about money. Can I make money? Is it benefiting me? Is it going to be successful? So that's kind of why it led me to commercial. And plus, a selfish reason is a lot of residential real estate is done on the weekends when people are off work. Where commercial, yeah, I mean that's what people do when
Yeah.
They look at homes in the evenings and they look at homes they're not working on the weekends. And my friends and family were all going to the lake, having fun, and I was showing houses. And so yeah, I had a different perspective on that. So I kind of switched gears about 3.5 years ago, and decided to get into commercial. And I really love it. I love doing commercial real estate. It's a lot more satisfying for me. I do a lot of leases, where I lease spaces to small businesses, and I like seeing people starting and trying to do the American dream, but owning their own business and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what led me. I don't feel like I'm talking too much here, so
No, it's
but
good
that's
stuff.
kind of what led me into commercial.
I
Yeah.
I I want to know like some of the things that people don't know about real estate, both sides of it, because I've been a shopper for the home, and you think, all right, show me this house. Boy, what a neat job. You're just showing me this house. But like you're saying, you got to be ready at the drop of the hat when someone wants to go look at something, or commercial wise, someone's looking for the perfect thing to make their dream business come true. But what are some of the other things we just don't know that we need to know if we're even thinking about going into real estate?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things in both residential and commercial, it's all the same, are your expectations. The most important part of my job is managing someone else's expectations. Because, obviously your budget dictates everything. So we all want to live, well, not all of us, but most of us want to live in a big, huge house on property with the two dogs, the fenced in yard, the 4 bedroom, 3 bath, beautiful home. Depending on what part of the country you live in, the average American can't afford it. The way property values have went up and the way our incomes have not. Not to get into politics or anything like that, but the average income in our area in Springfield is like, I think I read it was like $41,000. For a you know family of three or four. You're talking mom and dad and two
Mhm.
kids. You're making mom and dad are making $40,000 to $60,000 a year on average in our area. And if you do the math on that, by the time you have a car payment and all your bills, you're not going to be able to afford that 3,000 square foot house. You're not going to be able
Mhm.
to afford the 400, $500,000 home. You're going to be more in the $200,000 range. So managing those expectations with people is the hardest thing, because that's some folks have a real hard time, realizing that their income doesn't support what they want. And that's why a lot of Americans are in so much debt now, because
Mhm.
they live outside of their means. They want to live like the Joneses, and their income doesn't support that. So one of the most important things, especially in commercial, is managing someone's expectations of, okay, you want to open this business or you want to buy this property. Okay, so how are we going to buy it? And that's
Mhm.
where having the right connections in the lending world. I meet with bankers all the time. I meet with loan officers. I meet with insurance. So these are all things that a good realtor needs to know is, what if you tell me right off the bat that you're making $60,000 a year, I can already tell you what kind of houses we need to be looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And when it
And
comes to
that's probably, go ahead.
no, 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 go ahead.
I was going to say that's one of the biggest things about being a realtor is just managing people's expectations. And the next thing, once you get those wrapped tightly to where my clients are, accepting of what they can afford, and then we can move forward and find the nicest property, regardless if it's a lease or a building or if it's a home. Then we can move forward and start shopping. But first thing, we got to get your finances in a row. We've got to get your credit. And that's another problem that most realtors run into is, and loan officers. And when I say realtors, I mean, we're kind of like the sounding board, and I look at it as my job is kind of like the referee and the coordinator. I put everybody together to make the transaction happen and kind of manage the whole process, because you have loan officers, you have insurance people, you have title companies, you have inspectors, you have appraisers. I mean, all of this process goes into purchasing a home or a business. It's pretty much the same. Um, so managing all of that and keeping your client on track, the process is probably our most important job as a realtor.
When you have people coming to you for their office space or to be their storefront, what percentage of those people are usually brand new, fresh entrepreneurs?
I would say in this area, probably 25,
Yeah.
30% would be brand new people. I deal more with investors and, um, small business people that are already kind of in it, but maybe 30, I'd say 30. That's a good question, because I never really thought of what percentage are brand new. But there's quite a bit. Yeah.
What information could those people have coming to someone like you when they're like, I don't know what I'm after or what I need, but I need your help, but they don't know how to ask for your help. What could you say? You need to have this in row, this in line.
Right. No, I understand. If you're talking a commercial, like for starting a business, um, the first thing, everybody has an idea. We all have ideas. We all sit around, and I had great ideas. I had an idea last year that I wanted to open up, and I don't even want to. I'll say it, but and it's still a dream of mine, and I don't want anybody to steal my idea. But I mean, it's out there. I grew up in wine country. And worked in a vineyard when I was a kid. So I've always been into wine and that kind of stuff. So I've always wanted to open up a winery here in Springfield in this area, a winery slash wedding venue slash event center, kind of a destination place.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend and I last year we're working together, and we found a great location, and it's still available. But the problem is, and that's kind of where the expectation comes in, is, I had a great idea,
Mhm.
and we both were ready to go, yeah, let's do this. But then you have to go back to where my job is setting those expectations. So the
Yeah.
first thing is it doable? Is that business doable? So you kind of got to do kind of a business analysis of the area, not to get too technical, but you got to kind of figure out if there's a need for what you're wanting. If you're, in Springfield, if you are wanting to open up a snow removal company, probably not going to do very well, because we get one snow a year, maybe two.
And some nice
I say
ice
that
to
now.
go with
So
that.
I'm just using that as an example, just kind of a crazy off the wall
Right.
example. Like if you're opening up, you want to run a parasail boat or something, it's not going to work.
Right.
So the first thing you got to do is figure out if your idea is doable, and then the second thing you have to figure out the money. The money's always the most, they say the money's the most important thing. Everybody says, oh, if you have an idea, you can make it work. Well, you can, but you have to be realistic again with the money. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to sit down with somebody that knows, has a business background, and can explain to you the taxes and the cost and the lease rates and business licensing and what you're getting into. So there's a lot of different business types. So each real estate agent, in the commercial world, we have different types of business that we can focus on. Like I have strengths and I have weaknesses just like everybody else. One of my weaknesses is restaurants. Like I don't know what goes into opening a restaurant. And if I had a client come to me and said, hey, I want to lease a space and open a restaurant, I would refer them to somebody that has the business background of starting a restaurant, because restaurants are one of the number one failing businesses in America because they're the toughest business to get into. And as you know, in any city, restaurants come and go. There's ones that are established and that stick around for years and years and years and years. And then the rest of them they're there for a year or two or three, and then they disappear. And you're like, what the heck? What happened to that restaurant? That was my
Yeah.
favorite place. And you go, well, how many times did I go there? Well, I went once a year, that was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
favorite Valentine's Day or whatever.
Right.
Like there's one, I don't want to name the place here in Springfield because I don't want to get called out, but there's one place here in Springfield that didn't last a year, very high end. You probably know what I'm talking about. And the thing is the market doesn't dictate that type of restaurant in Springfield. There's high end eateries in Springfield don't last because, again, we go back to what's our average income. How many people can afford to drop $250 on a dinner weekly? You say, oh, that's
Right.
great for Valentine's Day and great for New Year's Eve, but there's 363 more
Yeah.
days you have to be open.
Right.
And you have to pay your clients or your customers and your staff, and or not your customers, but your staff and your management and all your insurance and taxes and blah 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 blah. And so, I would refer a restaurant owner to someone and I know a guy at another company actually that does restaurants a lot. So, my strengths are, small businesses, anything that's, a lease space or somebody that's just starting something small. That's something I can help people out. And, getting the, I think slowing people down is the most important thing. Everybody wants to rush into things. They have an idea, and it was just like going back to the winery thing. I went and we found a location, we visited the location, and we both wrote down these books of ideas. And then I went and spoke with a lender because of the money that was needed. And just to get the capital to start the loan was not in my grasp. It wasn't,
Oh.
I don't have the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the cash is, you can get a loan if you have good credit and you pay your bills. Yeah, you can get a loan most of the time. The problem is having the capital up front that the banks want down, because most banks right now, the way we're sitting, are they're 10 to 20 to 20% down cash to get a loan to start a business, to purchase a property on the commercial side. So if you're looking average of 20% and you're looking at $1 million property, you're at $200,000
Right.
that you got to have in your pocket that
Mm-hmm.
you can go,
Mm-hmm.
here's 200 grand
Yeah. Yeah.
of my money, And some people will get creative and put their house up and they'll do all this. I don't recommend that because you know if you lose it all, you lose it all. I mean, you're
Yeah.
playing a house of cards. So
Yeah.
that's where a good real estate agent and a good lender will come in and basically talk people out of stuff. Most people think that we are trying to get it done. I spend probably 60-70% of my time talking people out of things, going, no, dude, that's not going to work. It's just not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that myself. So if I'm not going to do it myself, I'm not going to advise someone else to do it. No.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about the new business owner, and you talked about also working with a lot of experienced people. What do you wish they would come to you with that they don't often do?
What do they, the experienced people?
Oh, yeah.
I think, man, that's a tough question. That's a good one. I think all of the information.
Ah,
A lot of times, people, investors especially, keep everything on the down low, as the cool kids say. They keep it
okay.
on the DL,
Yeah.
and they don't tell me everything. And a
Ah,
lot of times I'll do a bunch of work for them and then get the bomb dropped on you that, oh, by the way, I'm doing this or I did this. So I think, yeah, I think providing all of the information would be being upfront and honest, would be the biggest thing, I think, of what, they should bring to the table, I think, because a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot. I should say some investors they're savvy investors, so
mm-hmm.
they play all the cards. So if I'm charging a 3% commission for my services, then they might shop someone else and say, well, he'll do it for two or he'll do it for one without letting me know that. And then if I don't have all of my paperwork in a row, as far as agency agreements and all that stuff, then they can just walk away. And I then stand there holding back going, what happened? So I
Yeah.
learn as the more experience I have. I used to do, we have what's called an agency agreement, which I do with every client, and which basically hires me. It's a paperwork trail that hires me, and then we discuss commissions and payment and all that stuff, which is a big hot topic in real estate these days, is commissions. So we make sure that that's upfront, and straightforward as far as commissions and fees, what it costs, and then I have a written agreement signed by the client before I go out there and hit the payment for it, because I've done it without it before,
Mm-hmm.
um, and gotten burned.
Yeah.
Um, and people have just walked away and then somebody else. So yeah, I mean, it's so that, and then that's a good question. Yeah, it's a tough question
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it has a lot to do. A lot of times, financing seems to be usually is the issue. The money always, dictates what we do, obviously, in
Yeah.
investing and in buying buildings for whatever purpose. Yeah.
You mentioned that you feel like you're at a place where you know your strengths, you know when to pass something off like a restaurant to someone else. Did it take you a while to get to that place? Were you at first like, I'll take everything, and then you had to get burned a few times, or were you pretty good at getting into the stride of knowing where your boundaries
No, I
were?
think in the very beginning, I think most real estate agents are the same way. You're eager. It's just like anything in life, you jump into it with both feet, and then you're motivated and you want to help people and you want to make money. I mean, you want to do everything you possibly can every day of the week. And then with experience comes those, yeah, you learn through time what you should have asked up front first, instead of
Hmm.
saying, you get excited, especially in my world where, I'll have people that are wanting to buy a $5 million building. Let's just throw that. I'll just throw a number out there. And they come to you and they say, yeah, I want to buy this building. It's $5 million. And then you, you're not supposed to as a realtor, but the first thing you do is you do the math in your head and you go, oh wow, that's a lot of commission right there at 3%. You're going,
Yeah.
whoa, that's gonna make my year, And so you get eager about it and you jump into it both feet and you start calculating those numbers in your head. And you try not to, and every broker in the world tells you not to, and every experienced real estate agent tells you not to. Don't count your commissions. Don't do that. Take care of your client. And it takes a while for a young, but when I say young, I mean young in the business age, age, because I'm 50. I'll be 53 next 2 weeks. Oh my God! But so it takes a younger agent in the business a little more time to set back and look at the deal and say, okay, yeah, you want to buy this, but this is what we need to line out first. So I think vetting your clients a little more harshly is, and when I say harshly, I don't mean mean. I mean you need to make sure that they can do what they're saying they want to do before you
Yeah.
even spend the time or waste the other agent's time or the listing agent or even the clients that are selling the property. Before you request numbers, before you do any of that, you need to vet your client and get them pre-approved for the purchase through their lender and get all of that done up front. So that way, when it comes time to look at the property and make offers and do all that other stuff, we already have the money lined out. So getting the money lined out is the most important thing, especially in the commercial world. Because if you're I'm working on a deal right now where we're trying to purchase a property, and my folks are with the lender, working with the lender. They've been working with the lender for 2 weeks, and it'll probably be another week or two before we find out if they can even do the purchase that we're working on. So during that process, as a real estate agent, you have to be patient, and that's one thing I'm not, is patient.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to wait. And I'm good friends with the lender, so I call them, more than I should. Like, where are we at? Where are we at? And they're always like, well, Scott, just chill out. And I call my client, where are we at? Where are we at on these documents? Where are we at on these tax documents that you're supposed to provide? I'm working on it. And so the more I do it and the more experienced I become, the more I can hold back and say, okay, you guys are working on it. I'm going to go do something else until you get a hold of me. So that's one of the hardest parts right there.
Could you talk a little bit about, I feel like, I don't know if it's just a trend or what, but I feel like every time I turn around these days, I hear people saying real estate investment, that's what you need to be doing with your money. Tell me about this. Is it more of a trend or am I just noticing it more? What's going on with this?
Well, it got hot a few years ago. I
Okay.
mean, real estate investing's always been around. People have always
Right.
been investing in real estate, and a smart investor can do very well. Um, Obviously, people can do very well, and it's like anything else. If you think it's a get rich quick scheme, then just remember the last word, scheme. That's all you. If
Mhm.
it starts with get rich quick,
Yeah.
nobody gets rich quick. The only
No.
people that get rich quick are if you have a lost uncle or you hit the lottery, which is you got to live in California. Not kidding. It's a joke. Sorry. But there are no get rich quick schemes. There is no way to get rich, make money without doing the work and learning the processes. Smart investors that make real money in real estate most of them have doing it for a very long time. They have the capital that can buy the properties, and they have the processes that know what needs to be done. The issue with investing in real estate is you have to have two things. You have to have knowledge of the money. So if you have the knowledge to where you can buy a house and flip it, because that's like what a lot of you get on the internet, Facebook, TikTok, there's 1,000 videos, there's 1,000 people that'll tell you, yeah, flip houses, flip houses, flip houses. Well, that was great 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when the interest rates were 2.3% and you could borrow money basically for free.
Mhm.
Um, and there was a lot of homes that needed to be flipped. There are a lot of homes that need to be flipped and resold. In our area in Springfield, most people know where those areas are. There's the low income areas. There's homes that have just been neglected. there's older neighborhoods
Mhm.
that were nice homes. 30 years ago, they were top of the line homes, but they're outdated. They still have linoleum floors and brown cabinets and yellow carpet and green walls, with paneling.
Right.
So, which was hot in the 70s, and
Yeah.
and
Harvest gold and
but
avocado.
yeah, there you go. Golden avocado. Heck, yeah, that's it. So, the investing side, I'm not a real estate investor. I don't invest in real estate just because I do real estate and I know
Yeah.
that there's a lot of risk.
Okay.
There's a ton of risk in investing, and you have to have you got to have money to put down, and then you have to have the knowledge of what needs to be done in that house. I have a good friend of mine that he flips houses. He's a real estate agent. He buys houses and flips them and rents them, and he does great. But he also does most of the work himself. He goes in and guts the
Yeah.
houses, and they rip the carpet out, and they put new flooring in, and he busts his butt every day, um, and he makes a good living at it. That's what
Hmm.
he wants to do. You have to have the knowledge and the crew. You have to have the people that, you got to put a roof on the house. You got to rip all the, and when you start ripping these old houses apart, you never know what you're going to get into. You get into plumbing issues, you get into HVAC issues, big expenses, and you have to be set up to handle that. I'm not set up to handle that. I'm not a contractor type person. I'm not going to go in and work on a house. I'm not going to do that. My dad did that his whole life, and worked himself to death, and
Yeah.
that's not me. Uh, and then the other side of it, yeah, I mean, if you're doing homes, and then you have, when the market was hot, yeah, you could flip them and sell them. They're under contract within 3 or 4 days.
Hmm.
That's the way it was working 2 years ago, because the market was crazy. Interest rates were crazy low. People were buying. I mean, almost like I went to when I was doing residential real estate, I went to a house in Battlefield. I just remember that's when I first started really doing residential, started really doing it hardcore. And I went to a showing, and I remember my client they loved this house, and I looked at it. It was in Battlefield. It was a 4-3, 370, something like that. 2-car garage, fenced in back, brick home, beautiful house. Photos were great. And we turned the corner to go down, and it's on Cardinal Street. I'll never forget it. I turned the corner and drive down Cardinal Street, and the street is full of cars. And I was just like, and the showings were from 2 to 4. They were doing showings, open house kind of deal.
Uh-huh.
And I turned down the street, and I looked at my client. They were riding with me, and I was like, "What? Somebody's having a party down here or something?" We made a joke about it. And we got to the house, and there was literally 50 people standing in the front yard wanting to look at this house. And I was just like, what in God's name is going on right now? So that's how hot the market was. People were literally fighting over these homes. And,
Wow.
$370,000 house, people were fighting in the front yard. Not literally, but, they're like, oh my
Right.
God. And I walked past all of the people and all the agents with my client. We walked right in the front door because I looked at my watch, it was like 2 o'clock. So we just walked in. And the agent that was standing inside, she looked at me. She's like, "Oh, I thought there would be more people show up." She goes, "You're the only one I've seen so far." And I said, "Have you looked out in the front yard?" He opened the curtain. She's like, "Oh, I won't say what she said, but
Yeah. Nope.
yeah, it was like holy." And I said, "Well, we're gonna go through here real quick, and then we'll be out of here." And
Wow.
we were gonna put an offer in on the house, but I think by the time it sold, it was like $30,000-$40,000 over cash buy.
Wow. Yeah.
So when you Right. So when you're investing and you see that kind of market, you can buy homes and flip them, and you
Yeah.
can make 30, $40,000 in profit. Well, that was 3 years ago. You can't do that
No.
now. A
Yeah.
house sits on the market average 30 days now. So, and then when you get to 370, 400, $450,000 homes, go back to the median income for our area, your buyers are diminished. And everybody says, "Oh, people from California and the East Coast, everybody's moving here." Well, yeah, that's true. They are, but not right now the way the interest rates are, because everything's leveled off and we're at 6.5. I mean, 5.5 to 7, I guess, is where we're at, which is still a great interest rate for to buy a home, but it's not 2%. So, and so that's the thing. So when you're investing in real estate, you better be prepared to sit on that money, on that property, that investment for a while. because you might be stuck with it for a while. And you might buy a house and do, you might buy $150,000 house and put 50,000 in it. So you're in it for 200 grand, and you might have to sit on that house for 3 or 4 months before you make a penny. So
Yeah.
you better have some capital to back
Yep.
it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm not saying I love investors. I want everybody should invest in real estate and give me a call. But we need to have a real conversation about, you know, where are you getting your money from and how much do you need that money? Can you sit on, $50,000 cash out of your pocket and a mortgage payment that you're going to have to pay, and you're not getting any money coming in from that property? So, and then that's what you have to think about. So that's what you have to sit down and again, you have to look at, is it right for you? Your
Manage,
expectations. It all boils down
managing those
again.
expectations again.
Managing your expectations. I need to
Yeah.
put that like right up here.
Yeah, that
Manage
is
your
your slogan,
expectations.
Scott Schmoele, managing your expectations.
Manage your
I
expectations. That's
love
my
it.
new thing. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing some time talking. If somebody is ready to take the plunge, tell them how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. It's real easy. You can get me. There's Facebook Messenger. The easiest way is call me. Scott Schmoele Real Estate. It's 417-350-7662. Or you can call the front desk at Century 21 Integrity Group here in Springfield, Missouri, and reach out anytime you want. And yeah, you can call my cell anytime. I don't care. 10 o'clock at night, I'll answer it probably. If
Probably.
not, I'll call you back. Yeah. So that's the easiest way. You can email me. It's at scottschmoele@gmail.com. SCHMOELE at
All right.
gmail.com.
Thanks for sharing some insight with us, managing our expectations, and come back anytime.
Yeah.
Be sure you're listening and following along at runradio.net.